is we're going to continue on with our little task manager. We started working, doing some basic CRUD operations with Mongoose, our object document mapper. I think last week we set it up so that we could read and add data, but we haven't looked at how do we select a single record, how do we edit, how do we delete. So we'll work on that, and then I'll have you guys give you a chance to kind of expand that functionality. Question? Code is always on GitHub. Yep, the code will always be on GitHub at the end of the lesson. Now keep in mind, if you take my repository is connected to my MongoDB, so you will want to change the database credentials in the config globals file to point to your own database. Yes. So you need to make an account and set up a database. And the credentials. The credentials are inside of this config globals file. So it's pointing to my database on MongoDB. And I would recommend that you set up and connect to your own. So I'll just get this running. Anybody have any big problems getting doing the assignment with the Express generator? Okay.
The only major issue I came across was just your host being a bit funny.
Okay.
Not taking the new get repository, just kept going on the other one. I think computers get it to work.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. I know a couple people had the same issue I had last week. Was they tried to run it and it said port 3000 was already in use when they tried to run it locally. So if that ever happens, you just go to your task manager and kill the node process. Okay, so I've used NodeMon to start. I should be able to run this on localhost 3000. So last week, we wrote code in the index method to query MongoDB, and we built a simple form. Says what? So I need to mark your portfolio site so I can add a task. So we can query everything and we can save. So this is kind of where we left off last week. So we want to be able to delete from here. We should be able to delete straight from this list. And then we also want to be able to modify a task. So let's maybe work on the delete functionality first. It's a little bit simpler, and then we can do the update. Just minimize my terminal. And I'll go into my tasks. So here's our list. We've got our little mustache tags around our server-side code. So we're iterating through an object called tasks. And inside of our task controller, here's our index method. So to query the database, we just call task.find. And we say if you get any results back, stick them in this tasks variable, and then we're handing this variable to our view. Let's close up some of the files we don't need. So I'm going to add another column here. I'll add another heading. It says actions. And down here, we want delete links. So I'll just put it in as a link. Figure this out in a minute. I'll make my text red on it. It'll say delete. So where should this go? What should this href attribute be? If we refresh, we'll get these links. They're not going to go anywhere yet, but that's how they'll look. We could also add an icon if we wanted to. We maybe do that later. So what URL should this point to? Search. It's okay. You can think out loud. Okay, so which controller should we? Yeah, okay. Sorry. One thing at a time. Okay, so tasks, and what method should we call inside of tasks? Okay, so let's set up a root. Okay. So if I refresh, so all these are going to go to task/delete. If I try one right now, why do we get this? This would be expected. Yeah, we haven't handled this route. Our controller only knows the index root and add. Any other path inside of this controller it's got no knowledge of. So we'll need that, but we're going to need one more thing. It's not, this is correct, but it's incomplete. What else will we need here? If we want to call delete on a specific task. Okay, our href tag is, what we have is correct, but it's incomplete. Right. What do we need to, so what value do we need to specify, Nick? Right, we need to specify which task. So we need to append on to this the ID value. So we can just put a closing slash, trailing slash after what we have so far. And then with our mustache, our handlebars tags, we can put in so we're going to append our primary key, which MongoDB automatically names that column underscore ID. So I'll just save and refresh. Oops. This page I should refresh. So now you can see in the status bar as I roll over the different links, it's got this long string, but they change as I move my mouse from one delete link to another. Question. There's a question. So we've set up the UI. The other thing we should probably add here is some kind of confirmation, because people do tend to click, or particularly now where they're using mobile devices, people have fat thumb syndrome, and we tap the wrong delete link. Probably a good idea before someone deletes something for good that we give them a confirmation. So we'll add that, we'll maybe get the delete function working in the controller, and then we'll come back and we'll add a little JavaScript to this, so the user gets a little pop-up window. So we're going to need to write a delete method in our task controller. So I've already got my tasks controller open, but we can find it here on the tree under controllers and tasks. So I've got two files here called task. The singular one is my model, and my controller is the plural one with an S on the end. And again, it's under the controllers and tasks. So we've got two methods here, and basically one that runs at the root, and two add methods, one to load the form and one to save the form. So we want to add another root handle. So it'll run at the URL tasks/delete/ some kind of string ID. If we look at our earlier methods, we've got a get method here, a get method here, and a post method here. For deleting, which HTTP method are we going to use? How is this form being processed, this page being processed? Is it doing a get or post? Click this link. So this will call tasks/delete. Okay. Well, do we have a form? So can we do a post if we are not submitting a form? We could, technically, we could put this inside of a form tag, but we're really just linking. So when one page calls another one, which HTTP method is being executed? Yeah, it's get. Whenever we just load a page without a form submission, the method is always get. So for delete, again, we're not submitting a form. So our URL is delete. Then we have this colon indicates that this value is a parameter. This is not a literal string as part of the URL. So the delete method will expect in an ID parameter. Now we can set up our usual callback with request, response, next. So we just want to grab this ID parameter and we'll use Mongoose. Mongoose has other CRUD methods we've already used. We used find to run a query. We've used create to add a new record. So we'll just call, once we get the ID, we'll call Mongoose remove method. We'll pass in that ID parameter. Mongoose should delete that document from the database. So I'm going to take this value and just stick it in a local variable. And then we'll use Mongoose to delete the selected document. So Mongoose has a create method. It also has a remove method. Now if we don't pass in any parameters, this is going to remove all our documents. So we want to be sure we pass in this ID. So the way we do this is just in JSON format. So we're in effect writing a where clause here. Only remove the task with this ID. Don't remove everything. It is underscore. And then if this fails, we'll get back an error. If it succeeds, we don't get anything back. So if we get an error, we can log it and send the error back to the browser so we know what happened. What should we do if our delete is successful? So we're on this page, we click delete, we will add a confirmation, but we don't have it yet. If that item does get removed, what should happen? Yeah, let's just redirect back. Let's just call the index method again. It'll run a fresh query and that item should get removed. Question? Okay, when you download, here's probably what happened. When you download from a repository and you open it up, before you run the project, you need to run the command npm install, because that'll reinstall the dependencies. Because Jade is the default engine, but it says here, because I installed with HBS, so you may need to download the zip again, and before you try to run it, open the command prompt and run the command npm install. That will download all the dependencies that are tracked in package.json, including HBS. So then we'll just take our response, and rather than render review, we're going to redirect. I think we did this up here. We're going to redirect to the main tasks. And generally, it would suggest if you do miss class for any reason, ideally, you want to try and grab those class files ahead of time so that you're caught up when you come back. So we'll try to remove this. And if this is working, we then want to add a little JavaScript to the front end to do a delete confirmation. So I'm going to grab the ID, I'm going to call the remove method on my task model, and pass our primary key value in, as Nick said. So I'll run this again. The page just reloads. So there's all. So this entire method is new. We haven't changed anything else in the file. Anybody have questions about this method? You getting errors? Does it work? You get an error? Okay, make sure, here's a couple things to check. Make sure your path starts with a slash. The first thing to check if you're getting 404 is let's check the paths. Yep. Right, because that slash, otherwise, it appends the ID to the word delete. So this slash is critical to delimit the method name.
Go back to the other code to make sure that.
Okay. So if it gave you a 404, it's probably the redirect is wrong. Probably when it's trying to reload. You can also take out the else condition if you want. If you wanted, you could just add a return command in this block. So if there's an error, log it, print it, and return. And then this line, the redirect would not have to be enclosed in an else block. That would work as well. So we also want to use a little bit of Jquery to add a little confirmation to that delete button. We can attach a class to that delete button that will pop up a kind of a generic window, and then we could attach that class to any delete function. And if the user clicks it, it'll pop up a, are you sure you want to delete this message? So this would be reusable. Now, I don't think we have Jquery enabled in our project right now. We should. And part of the reason why is Bootstrap's JavaScript actually requires Jquery for some of the Bootstrap animations and motion. They don't work if you don't have Jquery. So we have this, but we don't actually have Jquery in our project. So it'd be a good idea for us to add it. So we could either just go to the Jquery website and download it, or we can install it from NPM. So that'll download it into our node modules, then we can just copy out the file we want. So I'll just do it that way. So I'll just stop my server for a minute. So I'm just going to install Jquery with the -- save option. So my package.json will track that as a dependency. Or an npm I or npm install Jquery -- save. So this should download a local copy and create a Jquery folder in my node modules. And it tells me I also have to install this other package called Popper. I don't know, so let's have a look. So I will also install npm popper -- save. Then we'll go to the npm site and have a look at what it is we're actually installing.
No idea.
So we'll see what npm tells us about Popper. You know what? Popper wasn't the right file. It's popper.js I'm thinking about. Okay, in that case, create a new project with the generator by yourself, and then you can just add the files I created to it. So use the Express generator to make a new project with HBS, and then you can just manually add the files, the views, controllers, and models. So I don't think Popper is the right file. I think it's popper.js. So I'm going to uninstall Popper. I think, yeah, we want this. A kick-ass library to manage. I don't know. We'll see. It's an element on the screen which pops out. Yes. Well, this is still going. Okay. npm uninstall Popper. We'll take all that out. And now we'll try popper.js with minus save. Okay, and that was much quicker. So now inside of node modules, I should have Jquery. So if you expand your node modules folder, under the dist folder, there's jquery.js, and if you expand that, here's the file I want, which is jquery.min.js. So I'm going to copy that file. It's under jQuery dist, jQuery.js, jQuery.min.js. And I'm going to put that inside my public directory and inside of JavaScript. So now I've got inside of public JavaScripts both the bootstrap we already had here, as well as I have jQuery now. So I want to add jQuery to my layout file, so then we can use jQuery anywhere in the application. Any view will have access to it. So we added jQuery that we downloaded from npm. So again, I found the file in node modules, jQuery, dist, and then you have to expand the jQuery.js file. And then it shows the minified version underneath. So I took that file. I could take the uncompiled file. That's fine. If you want, and put it in public in JavaScript. And then we add a link to it in our layout file. Question, or are you stretching? Yeah, you can't just install Node on any server. Like you can't install your Node application. That server has to have Node on it. No, IIS, what you have to install is what we've actually installed on our local machine so that we can run it. Like you have to go to nodejs.org and physically install the Node program. I without knowing the setup, I don't know, because normally that's what's needed, but most hosts don't, most hosts don't support it. Okay. Without seeing it, I don't know. If you installed Node, I'm not sure off the top of my head why it would not run, because it seems to run on anything I've tried to run it on. So now that I've added this, I'm going to make a new JavaScript file inside of public JavaScript. I'll make a new file here. We'll call scripts.js. So these are just our own client-side JavaScripts. So this is just custom client-side JavaScript for enhancing UI functionality. So what we want to do is just make a little confirmation pop-up, and we'll attach this to any element in our application. That element has a class of delete. It will automatically invoke this script if you click that element. And I have to double check my syntax. My Jquery syntax is pretty rusty, so bear with me for a second. I can try to do it from memory. I will fail. So I'll look it up. So I'm going to use the JavaScript confirm method. So confirm pops up a little modal dialog with an OK and a cancel button. This is built into like plain vanilla JavaScript. This method has been around forever. So it returns a 1 or a 0. The user clicks OK, it returns true. The user clicks cancel, it returns false. Oh, whoops. We're going to call an anonymous function and attach that to the click event of any element that has the class of delete. So if we put on an image and we give it a class of delete, if the user clicks it, it should get this little pop-up window. If they click OK, that event will fire. If they click cancel, the event is canceled. So we need to link this script into our layout file, because right now we've written the script, but it's not available. And then we're going to have to do one thing with our delete links in order for them to be able to trigger this. Here are our links right now. So what will we have to do in this line in order to activate this script? Ready? Right, we're going to have to add to those anchor tags a class of delete. And if we add that class, anytime we click one of them, we're going to get this method executing. Let's go back to my layout file. And then custom.js. So it won't fire yet. I just want to make, oh, I guess I stopped my server to install Jquery, so I've got to use nodemon to restart it. So just to make sure my script file is here, if I click on the link, right, we can see it loads my script file, so we've linked it correctly. So now we want to go back to our list, and inside of our A tag, we want to give each one of these links the class of delete. This should attach that click event handler to every delete link because they're matched based on the class. So all of the A tags have the class of delete. And this handler goes to any element with the class delete. Doesn't matter what kind of HTML element. It could be a button, it could be an A tag, it could be an image tag, anything. So I'll reload my page now. So now if I click on, oh, whoops, I already have a class definition. I forgot that. I used a bootstrap class to make it red. Can't have two class definitions. This has got to go inside my existing class attribute, and that's got to come out. So why are they blue? They're supposed to be red. I'm using the text danger class for styling, but I'm using the delete class for functionality. Refresh that, they should go back to being red. So now I get this. I can click on any one of these. If I click cancel, the operation's canceled. If I click OK, then the event fires. So this little JavaScript, just jQuery script, convenient to have in pretty much any project. We can reuse this. Doesn't have to be Node, can be anything. We put it in our UI, we link to it, and that way we get a generic kind of delete handler, right? Yes, there is a good reason. Because jQuery, using jQuery is a combination of using the jQuery functions and vanilla JavaScript. If you only use jQuery, but you don't actually know how to write any JavaScript yourself, you're not going to be able to use jQuery. So I think you guys get one class in client-side JavaScript, right? Did you do that last semester? Or are you doing it now? You did last semester. Who taught that class? Yeah, with Scott. So in that class, we used to use a lot more jQuery, And what we found was students didn't actually know how to write JavaScript if all they did was use jQuery. So we found it's more useful to actually teach you how to write plain old vanilla JavaScript. And then this is a tool we can use that can automate some things. I mean, it would be possible to do this without jQuery. jQuery is just a bit of a shortcut to doing it. So you could easily rewrite this as a regular JavaScript event handler. We don't need jQuery for it. I just find it somewhat convenient because the library's already out there. It's an npm package. We can install it, and I can just write the handler this way. But we certainly don't need it. It's just a bit of a shortcut. It's a good question. So now we could use this if we build out other collections and we build out other lists or have additional delete functionality anywhere in the application. Whatever the user is going to click on to delete something, we can just give it a class of delete. It'll automatically give them this pop-up when they click it. So this is generic. Right, I actually got this. I used this here in my PHP application from last fall. We did this in PHP, same thing. I just attached, in this case, I called the class confirmation rather than delete. And by making the message generic, I didn't say this task, right? I could put it on any page to delete anything. So you are free to use this script as it is in your assignment. There's no need to cite it. I am giving it to you, free and open source. Anything you want to do, you can go ahead and use this. You want to add it in your .NET assignment, you want to add it in Node, knock yourself out. All right, so there's delete. So we also want to add here the ability to edit. So edit's going to be a little more involved. Because edit, we need to pass the ID, but what are we going to, if we build an edit link here, what should happen when the user clicks it? Josh? Exactly. So we're going to pass the ID on our edit link to a form that will look similar to the add form we already built, except instead of giving the user a blank form, we want to populate the task name and set the current priority value. Then the user can change values, save, and then we want to reload here and show that it's been updated. So let's add our link here. So I'm going to put it in the same column as delete. Delete typically is lost. So we're going to link to tasks/edit. And again, we want to append the ID on so we know which task are we looking at. I won't attach any class. I certainly don't want the delete class. And I don't want the danger. I don't want to make it red. I'll just do it with no classes and see how it looks. Yeah, that's okay for now. So blue edit, red delete. So I'm not going to give it any class at all. So we're going to need to write this get method. Sorry, Giffen? Sorry, one sec. It's not quite inline JavaScript. What are the handlebars tags indicating? Not exactly. Why do we have, so we've got handlebar tags like here, here. What do they represent? Josh? Right, so that's server-side code. So wherever you see those delimiters, that means this value is coming from the server, from our controller, right? So this is a server side, this is an object ID from the database. Yep, so in our route, so here's our route. Let's go back and look at it. So when we have a GET request, when we load this view, we're using our model to run a query, right? So find, and there's no filter, so this gets all of the tasks, all the task documents in MongoDB, right? When this operation runs, it returns one of two things. It can't return both. It either returns an error or it returns a list of documents that match the query. In our case, that would be all the documents because there's no filter. So this tasks object is basically our query result. So if we get an error, we just display the error and we stop. If we didn't get an error, and every time we run this find, one of these two parameters has a value and one of them is null, right? If we got an error, we have no task data. If we didn't get an error, we will have task data. So if we have tasks data, this is what we're doing. We're loading the view and we're passing it the data here in an object called tasks. So this tasks object is a server-side variable representing our query results. Like if it would make it easier, I could name this data instead of tasks or query results. It's just a variable. So now in our front end, we're looping through. So on line 10, that's what this each loop is doing. We're looping through this data set and then one item at a time, outputting the individual properties. So within that loop, we're also using that primary key for our links. So when we edit or delete, we know which document we're working with. Make sense? Okay. Ken, you had a question? Okay. Okay. But your IP. Okay. Yeah, let's check. So log into the panel. We'll just do a quick look for where the IP settings or remote access settings are in here.
It's the same password that I used to get on Mongo.
No, not necessarily. It's under here, under database access. We created a user. So it's here. So inside of your cluster, I believe also is where you set the IP access. Their portal is not too quick. I think it may be in the configuration. Actually, did anybody see where to set the IP?
Yeah. So if you go to network access under security,
Okay.
and then
Ah,
you say add an IP address and that. Is what you guys just did? That's what I just did. And then, so you already have it, but you can see the add current or the other button which is now brought at the top was supposed to say add allow all.
right.
Which has that?
Well, the problem with adding the current is if you want to go home and work on this, you would need to go in and add that IP, or you want to go out for, you want to go sit in the coffee shop and do your work. Yeah, so I added it 0.0.0/0. No. Yeah, so I would recommend add them all. I mean, this is just for development. It's not like there's no security on it. Somebody still needs a username and password. So just because their IP can come in, they still need your credential. So I would recommend add the full range, and that way you can work on this anywhere you have connectivity. Yes, then you, correct. Yeah. Okay, so my edit link is set up. They're not yet functional. If I click, I get a 404, but it is calling the path I want, which is task/edit and passing in the ID. So we'll stop here. Need to take a break. I will push what we've done to get so far. We'll come back in a bit.